They're making millions of dollars as they're taking away homes and cars from the American people. And I gotta say, this might actually land me in some trouble here. Remember when pandemic funds were provided to people who couldn't pay their rent? With most of those all gone at this point, it's pretty safe to say that we should expect some evictions to shoot up.
Explain, why did Governor Kathy Hochul allow this moratorium to expire?
Yeah, it was really just time for it to end. According to what we've been hearing from sources who are aware of what Kathy Hochul's thinking is, and as well state lawmakers. It's really takes two to tango to let this end, and state lawmakers and the governor just made the decision that it is time to let this lapse. I should say that there are a couple of big housing fights coming up, and I'm hearing from tenant advocates who say, we're going to save our firepower for some upcoming legislation that will protect tenants in different ways. And after 2 years, this pandemic era eviction moratorium did end on Saturday.
And so you've heard from tenant rights associations, but what about landlords? What are they saying?
Yeah, they were pushing for this to end for many months. They are glad that this has now ended. They have said it is time. It is, outrageous to allow this to continue when, certain landlords are dealing with recalcitrant tenants who haven't paid their rent in many, many months, landlords who are losing money. So landlords are certainly happy about this move.
Now, you can understand where landlords are coming from when you think about how much they've actually lost during this time, right? But it's important to think about how much people are raking in so much cash now because of these evictions. I mean, look at New York, for example. 31 of their marshals earned a net income of around $11.6 million in 2022 alone. Now, that is net income, folks, and that's around 3 times more than their previous take-home pay. Now, some of these marshals earned almost $2 million as they ran their own offices and carried out evictions, towed vehicles, and even collected debt on behalf of creditors. The problem here is that while these marshals made millions of dollars, the city lost out on millions of dollars because this responsibility should have gone to them, but instead given to politically connected officers. In fact, out of the gross income of $25.2 million that they made last year, only $1.2 million actually made it to the city. I mean, I'm not even hating on them. They were kind of smart for pulling this off. I bet a lot of you guys didn't know that stuff was happening, huh? And the thing is, we're going to have to get used to it as more and more evictions are going to only go up from here. Because think about it. The president announced that the pandemic was over. But despite all of this, we still see drugs pass through emergency use, which means that drugs that go through while pandemic era assistance have all but ended. Now, this is a very controversial topic, I know. Some say that help should be continued, while others say that enough has been done these past 3 years and it's pretty much time for people to pay up. Now, which of the two do you think is the best thing to do right now? And while you guys are thinking about that, smash the like button for the video, also subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications so that you can stay up to date with all information that I'm sharing with you guys that you're not going to find on mainstream media, because basically they just want to keep this kind of stuff hidden. I appreciate the support, you guys. So getting back on topic here, some states are trying to at least hold off on these evictions, and well, good luck with that. But yeah, so Arizona's governor, Katie Hobbs, recently provided $5 million to 4 different organizations over there to support their state's civil legal aid resources. The support is aimed at helping prevent evictions, among other things. Now, for any of you guys who are asking, where did this money come from? Well, it came from the American Rescue Act, and this is possibly just one of the reasons as to why we're not crashing yet, because there's still money out there. Even with the health crisis behind us, there's still money that's pushing this crash, this complete and total collapse from happening. But believe me when I say this, the crash is just like Thanos. You remember that bad guy from Marvel? He's got that really weird chin, kind of looks like a scrotum. Yeah, he says he's inevitable. Yeah, anyway, so that's the point. The crash is inevitable, and we're seeing it with the savings numbers. We're seeing it with the credit card bills, and we're also seeing it with how millions of Americans are struggling to keep things together. Don't believe me? A survey from CNBC shows that 92% of Americans have trimmed their spending over the course of this year. 92%, guys.
A majority of U.S. adults feel the current economic environment is having a negative impact on their finances. That's according to a new exclusive CNBC Morning Consult survey. Middle-income households are feeling the negative effects the most, sentiment that has held steady since our first survey in June. Higher-income households say they're feeling the effects less than 3 months ago. And sentiment among top earners is shifting. 30% now say the economy is having a positive impact on their finances. That's up from 21% in June. Still, almost everyone, 92%, told us they have cut back on spending over the last 6 months. Clothing, restaurants, bars, and entertainment remain the most common categories for cuts. Looking ahead, more than 3/4 of consumers say they will cut spending on non-essentials sometimes or more often over the next 6 months. We will continue to watch this closely as we get into the all-important holiday shopping season. Interesting the way we're getting some splinterization on income brackets.
Also, I thought it was interesting that restaurants were included there because none of it surprises me on goods. We know that's been softer, and that's not where consumers are spending after they spent so much on COVID. But services is what has stayed hot and sticky. So deceleration there is notable.
So, do you think that number is small? It's gotten to a point where households in all income levels are reporting problems. I mean, it doesn't even matter if you make 6 figures nowadays. For some households, that's just not enough. And just getting back to the topic of evictions, some landlords are hurting really badly. Are you familiar with Berkeley, California? Yeah, it says here that evictions are slowly going up there, but since the end of the city's eviction moratorium last September 1st, landlords can now file small claims against tenants who haven't paid their rent. But here's a twist on this one. Tenants cannot be made liable for any back payments that were owed during the C-19 pandemic. One thing that California has been criticized for is their supposedly really love and pandering to their voter base. I mean, do you guys agree with that? Should landlords just get stiffed because California allowed that to happen? So does that mean that even though someone else might be right, they'd rather side with someone who's just going to vote them in? Well, that would probably explain what happened to this one landlord.
He asked if we had any plans for that house. I told him yes.
Barbara Gunner is the landlord on top of the hill. From her front porch in Encanto, she can see her rental house down below, where she says people have been living for 9 months without paying rent.
How many people are living there now?
About 6.
Barbara says none of the people living here have a written lease. They took over the property after her longtime tenant died.
Do you think that these people are squatters?
They are squatters.
They are squatters.
They haven't paid a nickel.
Yeah, they're squatters.
That's why they're down there now.
Barbara filed eviction papers and took the people to court, but she represented herself and lost the case. In fact, the judge ruled against her twice.
It's a terrible thing, but your hands are tied. You know, to do things legally, you have to go by what the judge says.
It all came down to what the judge called a verbal lease agreement, formalized when Barbara accepted initial rent payments from one of the tenants. Her husband, Roy, is a retired criminal attorney, and he still doesn't understand the complicated ruling.
It looks to me it's damn near impossible to get anybody out of your house. They can come in and tell any lie, and that's enough to squeeze by these current laws in California.
Now, I'm not even going to add much to that one, but what do you guys think about this? Now, if you ask me, we're going to see an explosion of evictions come 2024. Now, it might not happen in California due to their laws, but we are for sure going to see it in other places as we get closer to the inevitable. But again, guys, I'm going to leave the last word for you guys. Please make sure to share your thoughts in the comment section down below. And before I go, I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Please keep safe, and I'm going to catch you guys on the next one.